Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear students. Here we are together in order to present the lessons of linguistics for second year. Before we start the lessons of linguistics for the second year, we are going to see the general revision of the basic concepts that normally you have seen last year. Okay, let's start. Language. Language normally is a concept. And language normally it has many definitions. And up till now, linguists did not agree or share a common definition for the language. Of course, the language normally is a very complex human phenomenon, and all attempts to define it have proved inadequate. So each defines the language from one angle. So that's why we don't have a common definition that can normally give us all the details of the language. In common parlance, it may be said that language is an organized noise used in actual social situations. What does it mean? It means that it is a noise that has a system, that has a rule. Okay? It is not like any noise. I can hear noises from here and there, but they are unclear. A noise not organized. Okay? So it can be an organized noise used in actual social situations. It means that is used in a society. Okay, that's why it is defined as contextualized systematic sounds. Okay, so the sounds are arranged systematically in a certain context to mean something. Okay, linguistics is it's a field that studies language. It is what? A field that studies language. Linguistics is what? Okay, so the subject material of linguistics is language. And linguistics is what? Is the scientific study of a human language. Okay, scientific. There is a scientific research to study the human language. Okay, so it is a field of study. It tries to do three main points, or three main things: to observe languages and to describe them accurately. So linguistics seeks to observe languages and to describe them accurately. It also seeks to define or to find generalizations within what has been described. So it seeks to give us general ideas, general, if you can say, rules about the language that it describes. It also seeks to draw conclusions about the general nature of a human language. So it gives us the main characteristics of the language. So these are the three main functions that linguistics tries to seek to give us as a contribution to the literature of the language normally studied. So, applied linguistics. Applied linguistics is a field of study in linguistics or with linguistics that attempts to make practical use of the knowledge derived from general linguistics research. So what we draw as conclusions and find as generalizations are normally used in the field. So in applied linguistics. So applied linguistics, it is to practice, it is to make the general linguistics practical, and that's why it is the practical use of the knowledge. It is the practical use of the knowledge of general linguistics. So general linguistics is purely theoretical and applied linguistics is merely practical. So what we draw as conclusions in general linguistics, we apply them to the language teaching, the language study. So we apply generalizations to specific normally subjects related to the language. This is applied linguistics. Linguistics and other disciplines. Linguistics overlaps and cooperates with other fields of study like psychology, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, logic, mathematics, computer science, speech pathology, acoustics, and so on. So, and these overlapping relations normally produced or emerged new disciplines in linguistics. So, and these disciplines can be revealed in this diagram. So, the overlapping relationships between linguistics and all fields of study normally has produced something called macrolinguistics. So, what is macrolinguistics? Macrolinguistics is normally linguistics with another field. Okay, so let's see here, have a look. Macrolinguistics, normally stylistics is linguistics and the style of the context, okay, of the text, sorry. The style of the text in relation to linguistics normally gave us stylistics. Computational linguistics is also another field that studies language in relation to computer science. Biology and linguistics normally gave us biolinguistics. Neurology and linguistics, we have neurolinguistics. Pathology, we have a clinical linguistics. Sociolinguistics, sociology and linguistics. Psycholinguistics, psychology and linguistics. Language geography, the distribution of the language all over the world or in certain regions. So historical and diachronic linguistics, it studies the history of language, so history and linguistics developments, and also it studies the developments of language hand in hand with the human developments. So this is normally one, if you can say, subfield in general linguistics or in linguistics in general. So linguistics can be divided into two normally subfields, which is macrolinguistics, which is purely linguistics in relation to other disciplines, and we have also microlinguistics, which is another subfield in linguistics, which studies language as a subject matter. So language, according to microlinguistics, normally studied from its sound system to its word normally formation to its sentence formation and structure, and moving to further studying the text analysis and discourse analysis, pragmatics, semantics, the meaning of the text and the meaning of the words. Okay, so microlinguistics normally the subfields or mainly the subjects related to microlinguistics. We have phonetics, phonology. Phonetics studies the sound, normally production, the sound formation, transmission, and the sound reception. Phonology, it studies the sounds combination in syllables cutting, in stress, normally stressing or the stress on the right syllables. Also it studies the intonation, it studies the assimilation, the liaison or the linking, and it studies also all things related to the pronunciation, to the production of the sounds. Okay, morphology, normally it studies these two normally are related to the sounds, yet the other one, it is here the two, okay, and here this one, it is mainly related to the word normally formation. So it talks about the morphemes, how to normally to add derivational inflections, affixation, I mean affixation and derivational. Affixation, which is divided into derivational and let's say inflectional and derivational, normally morphemes. So it studies all the details related to the words formation, from the roots to the additions that can be suffixes or prefixes. Also we have syntax that studies normally the sentence, okay, and normally both of them are studied under what is called grammar, okay. So when I say grammar, I'm talking about morphology, for example parts of speech, and I talk about also sentence structure, which is the syntax. We have semantics normally, which normally deals with the meaning of the text, the meaning of the texts. Sorry for this handwriting, it's not handwriting, but essentially it is it will be clear. Meaning of the texts, and we have pragmatics, and we have discourse analysis, applied linguistics, lexicography or lexicology, and we have all of these subfields that normally their main focus is the language, not linguistics with in relation, or language in relation to other fields of study. No, it studies the language itself as it is, so it describes the language as it is. So these are the two main subfields in linguistics. We have macrolinguistics and we have microlinguistics. Okay, now we move to the characteristics of the language. The characteristics of the language, we have here 10 characteristics. We have here arbitrariness, which means that there is no relationship between the signifier and the signified. So for example, imagine that this is a table. So normally in English we call it table, in French table, in Arabic طاولة. So it means what? It means that there is no relationship between the two, between the thing we indicate, or the item we indicate, or the idea we indicate, and the term or the words or the word that is used to indicate it. So the signifier and the signified, there is no logical relationship between them. This is what we mean by arbitrariness. Language is a social phenomenon. Language normally it reflects the society. It is a part of the society, okay? So it is a social phenomena. So the society who created normally the language, okay? So we cannot say the language it is individual, so it is social phenomenon. So it is the so we have a group of people, automatically there is a language between them, okay? It depends which language they are using. Language is symbolic, is a symbolic system. It means the language has a symbolic system. For example, the letters, okay? The letters are symbols for the language, especially in the written form, and for the spoken form too. So p, b, d, k are all symbols that are oral, and letters that are written, okay? So each language has its symbolic system, and language is systematic. Normally each language has its own rule, okay? It has its own rule. So language is here we can see, we talk also about the sounds, and we said that the language is systematic, meaning there are rules for each language. There is a grammar, okay? There is vocabulary, normally characteristics. There is, so the sentence, how it is normally organized, etc., etc. So these rules of the language are normally, or make the language systematic. So all of these rules make the language systematic. Language is vocal, verbal, and sound. I mean, here it has a sound system, and it refers back to the symbolic systems. So vocal and verbal. So we have the spoken and we have the written form of the language. This is normally the main characteristic of the languages. Language is non-instinctive and conventional, so it is not inherited. So the language is not inherited. The language is not inherited. Sorry for the handwriting. Okay, this is E. Inherited. It is not inherited. It is not inborn. So we learn and we acquire language from the people surrounding us, and it is not something that we inherit from our parents. So when I start to speak, the baby starts speaking the language of his parents. It's not 100% correct. No. So he acquires his parents' language, and he may acquire other languages too. So language is productive and creative. So the language doesn't stop producing new words. Okay. So each time we have a new word, so it is productive and it is creative, and based on the language we can create new texts, new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of thinking, and so on and so forth. So the language is creative and productive. Language is a system of communication. So the language, it is the only means of communication between the members of the society. So we restate the second adjective, or the second character, which is a social phenomenon. So language is what? The language is a system of communication, of course, and it is social. System of communication, it means we communicate using a language, whether verbally or non-verbally. But verbally, it is the language. Non-verbally, it can be through gestures. Okay. Language is human and structurally complex. Okay. So the language, because it is a human, it is complex in terms of its structure. So each language has its own complicated structure. Each language has its own system, its own rules. If you want to understand it, you have to understand its structure. Otherwise, you can't understand the way you are going to use it. Okay. Language is unique, complex, and modifiable. It is unique, of course. Each language is unique in its system if compared to another language. So each language is different from another language. And modifiable, each language can modify its system, and it can modify mainly if talking about words borrowing from other languages. Okay, so it modifies. So I modify the word that I borrow from another language to be or to fit the system of that language that I am using. For example, I borrow a word from the French language. For example, crier. Crier, I borrow it from French language, and to English it was modified to be English. Yeah, so it became create. Okay, or it is the reverse. Okay, so we borrow words and modify them to fit the system of that language. Okay, so these are all about the characteristics of the language. So in this revision, just we try to pave the way to the new lessons, to the lessons of the second year. So the lessons of the second year, normally they will focus mainly on on structuralism, European structuralism and American structuralism. This is normally the program of the second year. So it focuses mainly on structuralism across different schools from Europe to America, to of course Northern America. I'm not talking about the whole America. So I hope that you have understood this first lesson, which is devoted to general revision. Thank you very much, my dear students, for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.